And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Burning Wheel. We're heading into a duel of wits. Now, this is, of course, our first time actually trying out the duel of wits, and it's you, my players, the first time doing this as well. So let's just learn together as we proceed.
So long as I win.
Yeah, let's talk about what's going on here. We have a disagreement between Shihaoji and Nicholas, and it concerns something about which you both have a belief.
Yes.
So, let's have a look at how this plays out. So the first thing you want to do in a duel of wits is we want to assert your statement of purpose. Right? What is it that you want to? What is it that you want? What is your point? Why are you right? So the two sides are willing to defend the disputed position. Each side clearly and succinctly states its case. This is called the statement of purpose. So, take a moment if you need one. If you need a moment, and then write out your statement of purpose. Like, what is Shihao trying to convince Nicholas of in this case? Like, what is Shihao's argument? What is Nicholas's argument? What is your statement of purpose? And write that in on the screen, right where it says statement of purpose, name, colon. And by all means, speak it aloud as you do so. We can talk it out, and you don't have to think it out all on your lonesome.
Roaring silence.
Yes,
Well,
sorry,
Nicky-
I'm thinking.
Yes, well, Nicky is right because, quite frankly, being flashy and overt is bad for business, which involves, stealing things and discreetly beating people up.
Yeah. So the thing you like, the thing that had Nicholas bringing this argument up to begin with was, or at least joined the argument when Minnow brought it up, was that you have a belief about this flashy magic bringing like undue attention, or that's the gist of it, right? Yeah. So that is like that approaches your statement of purpose, right? Is that you think that Shihaoji is doing something that, while it might be useful, it is wrong in the sense that it provides a problem, and that needs to be taken care of, right? So that somehow some amalgamation of that is your statement of purpose, I would guess.
I have a draft for a statement of purpose.
Yeah, let's see it. Click
You want
it
to
in.
see it or you want to hear it?
Both.
I'll just copy it in then to begin with. Text, size, whatever. Okay, size bigger than that.
The size is 40 on this page.
And I need to break the line there.
Yes.
Right. So, Nicholas's aversion towards overt methods is simply him being afraid of change. He might have needed it before, but I'm here now. By adapting to my presence, he could benefit greatly and expand his empire.
Okay. So
I think that's arrogantly enough, right?
yeah, I think so too. So like what your Shihao is essentially saying is that like there is like a slight accusation of cowardice in there, which is of course always nice, and then which is actually really fun because you're playing off of your whether you know it or not, you're playing off of a trait that Nicholas has, which is his paranoid trait. And he may have need of it before. He might have needed it before, but you're here now, so yeah, it's a good statement of purpose. I feel like this is you state your case, right? This is he should adapt to you because that will help him.
Yes.
What is Nicholas' statement of purpose like? That is what he's trying to convince you of. What are you trying to convince him of?
Give me a second, I'm just going to write it out.
Sure.
In the meantime, Daniel, you can tell me if there's a card for philosophical mumbo jumbo.
In what sense exactly? Like, are you talking what would be the purpose of the philosophical mumbo jumbo?
I guess to convince my opponent that I'm right. Isn't that the
So
purpose
the
of the
philosophical mumbo jumbo would be, I'm making an actual point here. It's not I'm trying to like coerce you into not understanding my point, but agreeing because I sound smart. Because
Yes.
there's a difference there. One is obfuscation, and one is obfuscation, and one is a point.
How do
A
you
bit of both.
What's up, Chris?
how do you do double space? How do you break it?
You just
Just
press
use-
enter.
Really?
Yep.
Like you would in any other instance.
Press enter, and when you are finished, you can just click away from the text box.
Okay. Oh, by Christ!
Yeah, just drag it drag
It's
it
not even
into
finished. I haven't finished fucking writing the fucking thing.
Okay. Well, you can just
Double click it with the mouse then.
Excellent. I just realised I just swore violently while we're recording, haven't I?
It's fine. We've
Yeah.
said words.
I apologise to viewers of a sensitive disposition for my violent swearing.
yeah. If you object to coarse language, this may not be the place for you, or at very least, it may be your chance to boldly test yourself against this coarse language that you dislike.
I just saw that someone had made a list of all the English swear words listed by how offensive they were.
That sounds amazing. You need to link me that after we're done.
It didn't seem that like fuck was in the worst category. That can't be right.
I
Can
mean,
it?
I guess it's a rude word in polite company.
I'm actually asking because I know it might be different in Denmark than in England, but because over here it's like almost as bad as saying darn it.
It's a bridge word here, right? It's not that you can use it basically to bridge words if you're having like a pause in your conversation. So it's like this fucking and then you make your point afterwards.
Yeah, so it's almost not offensive.
That doesn't sound right, though.
How's it coming, Chris?
Getting there. I've got a lot more to say than I should probably condense this.
Yeah,
actually.
you should be concise, like a brief statement of purpose here. It's what you want, right?
That'll have to do.
Okay, so let's see it then.
Your
So-
box isn't big enough, Daniel.
You're just gonna have to conform to my box. It is this size to dissuade too long of a statement of purpose. To draw attention to yourself.
Daniel, Chris's statement is too long.
Well, he'll just have to like put in an extra line break. It is foolish to
Yeah.
be overt and draw attention to yourself, for all of how she's magic and his. Actually, I should not be the one reading this out. Chris should. Tell us what your statement of purpose is, Chris.
There you go. Now it fits.
Good. Tell us about it.
It is foolish to draw attention to yourself. For all of Jihaoji's magic and his arrogance, he is one man, and one sorcerer against a city which already fears magic is a sure desire to commit suicide. Being subtle will benefit us more in the long run.
Cool. Love it. All right. So these are your respective statements of purpose. You have described your points. Why is it like why are you right? This has been brought up. So now that we've done this, we must agree to terms. The two of you, and with the potential input of me and AJ, will figure out like what are the terms of this debate. If Shihaoshi wins the debate, what does he get? If Nicholas wins the debate, what does he get? And you talk this out between the two of you, figure out what you're comfortable with doing.
Doesn't that depend on how the debate goes, though?
It will. There are compromises to be made depending on how well your characters argue. But this is like the hypothetical. If I completely trounce you, taking not a single point of damage to my argument, then I will get this thing. So what are the terms of this? You want to make that clear now, so that let's say that you that Nicholas was had the idea. I mean, I'm not saying that Chris would do this, but let's say that the argument was, if I win, you will not use magic for anything ever. And then something significant would have to change over the course of play to like make you go against that. You might not think that's cool, right? Because you might want to. I want my character to continue doing this because I'm very invested in that. And then you would talk it over and figure out different set of terms that are more palatable to both of you. You still want to have fun after this is done, after all. But of course, having your character make drastic and dramatic changes to their outlook or the way they agree to act is, of course, all about this game, right? This is great drama. We want this. But do keep in mind that a duel of wits is not mind control, right? You are not obliged to be convinced that the other person is right. You are only obliged to accept verbal defeat. Whoever wins the duel of wits is the one making the succinct argument, whereas the other is the one fucking it up.
Alright.
You are the ones who decide if you will be convinced, which is what you're asserting here now in the terms, right? So figure out what are your terms.
So, like, if I super win everything...
If I win,
what?
you will do X. If you win, I'll do Y.
Alright, if Jihaoshi wins, Nicholas will reevaluate his method of business and probably adapt it and build it around his new powerful sorceress ally.
Let's get a bit more specific with that, right? Because this is a good point you're making, but let's be clear so Chris also knows what he's going into. We don't want there to be any like this is a metagame thing. This is the players setting terms, not the characters. So
Alright.
Let's be clear about what's actually going to happen.
So if I win, Nicholas will make a grab for power using the brute force of Jihaoji. Does that make sense?
So he will agree to like use you as a battering ram and be like, use the magic, use all the magic, just be big and scary and spooky, and I will not like I won't try and hinder or hamper you working your sorcery to accomplish our goals. Is that what you're aiming for here?
I guess what I'm aiming for is he'll, instead of hindering, he'll support it and use it actively. So I guess the complete opposite of what he wants.
Alright, so like he will encourage you.
Yes.
Yeah, no.
Right, so you're not comfortable with that, Chris? You don't think that that Nicholas could be persuaded to that in argument?
Not that quickly, no.
What do you mean by not that quickly?
This is
If
one
he can-
argument.
He'd have to make the argument multiple times and show show at least a couple of successes with it for it to convince him. You could convince him with this argument for him to be more tolerant of it. Certainly, you could convince him to not kick up a fuss about it, to not say don't do it, and
Alright.
and then he'll deal with the issues that arise within his own gang as a result of it. But yeah, that's about as far as it will go.
Okay. In that case, that means we'll be reining in the scope of the terms a bit. So let's try and pull it back a bit and say what then could be a good term for you, Rasmus? If you win, what would you then accomplish that is a bit less than that?
If I win, Nicholas will trust me to act in the way I find best whenever he has need of me. If that includes magic, so be it.
So it's so if I'm understanding.
So
this
he'll shut the
correctly-
fuck up if I use magic.
Right. So it's that if he calls on you to do anything, there is an implicit agreement that he is taking the muzzle off the attack dog.
Yes.
Would you think could you Nicholas agree to these Chris? Not Nicholas.
Yes.
But would you agree to this term, Chris?
Yes, I think that's acceptable.
All right. What is your counter term?
My counter term is that should I win this argument, I expect Jihaoji to consider using his magic not as his first resort to a given situation, that he must actively only use it when in genuine trouble, or if either he, as the leader of the gang, or his brother, as his sort of confidant, tell him it should be okay.
Alright, so that he does not default to the use of sorcery as the first solution, but must attempt another venue, whether successful or failing, before he employs sorcery.
Yes, and in the event of failure, it would be okay to use it in that regard. If he's genuinely, for example, if he's injured in a situation where his life is just genuinely threatened, not just the start of a conflict, but he's actually in a position where if he does not use magic right now, he could die, then that's fine.
How do you feel about those terms, Rasmus?
I think Jihaoji would probably either, pay lip service to that, being like, sure, I can do that, and then be like, oh, I had already thought of everything, but I couldn't think of anything. Either that, or he'll be like, well, I'll just stand back here and look pathetic because you told me not to use magic.
So go on, Chris.
So regardless of what happens, he's going to be difficult about it.
Of course.
Yep. Sounds like it.
Yeah, I mean, being cooperative about it is not part of your term, right? If you could, like, if you wanted to make it part of your term, you could ask Rasmus if he was willing to accept that, if as part of the duel of wits, Jihaoji might be inclined to agree with you and be helpful simultaneously. You could ask for that term, and it would be up to Rasmus if he was willing to concede it as an option.
Okay.
So do you want to do that, or are you fine with it? Are you perfectly accepting? Like, do you want Rasmus Shihao to be like to agree that you have won the argument and that he will abide by your words, but he will be obstinate about it? Because I think that's a perfectly valid solution, like a perfectly valid way to settle it should you win. But it depends on, like, are you okay with that?
I'm sworn to carry your burdens.
Fusrodar off the mountain.
Yes, that is. Yeah. We are so casual in our cruelty towards video game NPCs, but that's entirely besides the point of this. I am happy with that solution.
All right. So let's. I should actually have been. I should have been writing this as we went along.
You should have done. How dare you not do so?
Yeah, I know. I'm an idiot.
Why did you copy that in again?
All right. So let's say if Shihao wins, what was your term, Rasmus?
If Shihao wins, Nicholas will understand that when he uses Shihao, the muzzle is off the attack dog.
All right, Nikki will accept that if Shihao is called on to do something, he will be free to employ sorcery to accomplish it.
He'll do so however he sees fit.
Yeah, I mean you will do so how. Okay, that's actually a good point. So let's talk about that. So this is not strictly speaking about you being free to use sorcery. This is about you don't demand that he will admit the sorcery, or permit the sorcery, but he will give you carte blanche to do whatever the fuck you want if you are called upon to do something. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. I gave a different impression when I tried to sum up what I thought you were making an argument for. So I'm just going to check that Chris still is on board with that.
That's basically that if he wins, I agree that using him is essentially letting the dog off its chain.
Yeah, right. If you call upon Jihaoji, Smithers will release the hounds.
Yes, that is the understanding.
Okay. So if Shihao wins, Nikki will accept that if Shihao is called on to do something, he will have carte blanche in how he does it.
Yes.
And if Nikki wins,
Shihao will have carte blanche to do what he wants.
Shihao will accept that. And what was your term again, Chris?
To accept that magic is not to be the first resort in a given situation. Yeah, and that he must find other avenues to use first.
He will exhort, like he will attempt a non-sorcerous method before resorting to it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay.
Oh, I can already imagine how he would do that.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, and just so we remove this from this is of course the argument that will be agreed upon by the characters, but on the meta level between us, the players, like there is a binding, essentially like a level of binding contract here too. You're not compelled to do it, but you if you lose the argument, then you are bound to, in this moment, your character will agree to the terms. If you decide to later on, for some reason, turn out like you want to break what you break your promise, then you're free to do that. But on the meta level, until Shihao decides to do so, are we talking like that Rasmus will have Shihao attempt like a non-sorcerous skill check? So he will. It's not just that Rasmus will say, "Can I get in?" No. Oh well, I tried. But it's like he will.
That is exactly what Shihao would do. Or he'd be like, "Oh, I threw a pebble first. It didn't work."
Yeah, you try that. I think what will happen is you'll try that. Nicholas will call you out on it, and we'll have to have a second battle of wits on this stage.
That's fine by me.
Yeah.
Alright. So, but yeah, I guess we could do it that way. But again, that is, in my opinion, that it's fine if we do it that way. I will leave that up to you. But I would personally prefer if we cut out that middle step, right? Because there is really no reason to have the same duel of wits again with the same stakes. If we revisit this, it should be, in my opinion, to like move the argument further along its natural course. So
I could totally make a case for him actually trying the first time. Then I would just have to base it off his pride instead of his wanting to get his way. That's easily done.
cool. I think that's nice because that at least that is a more firmer stake, right? So if Nicholas wins his argument completely unscathed, Shihao will make a legit attempt, maybe using a suboptimal approach, whereas sorcery could have been the better solution, right? He will try something else before he attempts the sledgehammer.
Yes.
Cool. That's really awesome. I love this. Okay, so we have some terms. So now what we want to do is we want to generate the body of argument. Now, the body of argument is essentially your hit points for this conversation. And as you make points and counter arguments and incite your opponent and so on, you're going to shave away at your opponent's body of argument until someone is reduced to 0 and that person has lost the duel of wits.
Right.
All right, so what you'll want to do now is I want you to test a skill. And this skill should ideally be based on like the way you have been presenting your argument, right? So the way you talked as you were going into this, what skill do you feel like that like reflects that? You can pick from coarse persuasion, if you of course this is depending if you have it, but coarse persuasion, interrogation, oratory, persuasion, poisonous platitudes, rhetoric, or stentorious debate.
What if I have none of those?
Then you say which one of those you feel like you used as you were building up to this argument, and then we roll that one, but we roll it with beginner's luck, and we roll the root.
So
Okay.
which ones could I choose from again?
Coarse persuasion, interrogation.
What is that?
What?
What is coarse persuasion compared to persuasion?
I'll have a look. See what the skills tell us of coarse persuasion. Jeez, my fingers are cold right now. Okay, so you can't use coarse persuasion because coarse persuasion is dwarves only.
Oh, okay.
So interrogation, oratory, persuasion. I think poisonous platitudes is orcs only.
Oh, that probably is.
Hmm.
Sounds like it would be.
Daniel,
Yeah.
could ugly truth be a way to actually start an entire argument like this?
You could not use it for your body of argument, but you could, if you wanted to like start shit with ugly truth, you could do so. But that would not be the crux of your argument. You can't use ugly truth as your BOA. You would
It's. I'm just thinking about, well, this argument is about him being fucking flashy in public.
Yeah.
And if I were to go into this, it would be pointing out exactly why that would be a bad idea, aka the ugly truth about, well, if you keep doing that, you're gonna end up with a wooden staff between your legs.
So
All the way up to your skull and left there to be seen by everyone.
you might be able to make that point if you want to. I'm just gonna quickly take this. If during this argument, you AJ Minnow would be free to help any side he wanted to. Like every time one of these people make an argument, every time they turn a card in a volley, you can lend your aid to what they're doing, but you have to do it. You have to like speak the part, as do they in a certain measure. There has to be a bit of speaking the part. You don't have to be particularly eloquent about it. But if you broke in with like a great argument and was like this because this reason and because this, and that was perfectly sound, you would lend dice to the argument you were helping. Whereas if you broke in with, let's say, like a very poorly conceived thing, right? You did something that was actually hurtful. That might lend dice to the opposing side. You're not obliged to only help one side. You can be the author of like who are you helping and why.
Okay.
You just have to like make it work from the perspective of you say you're helping using what skill, right? And then you have to convince us that you're doing that. All right, so yeah, poisonous platitudes is also out. So you need to make a roll using interrogation, oratory, persuasion, rhetoric, or rhetoric. Stentorious debate is dwarves only.
So I would probably use rhetoric.
All right. I'm assuming rhetoric is off will. Yeah, all of these are off will. So what you're gonna do is you are going to roll your will, Rasmus. And every 2 successes you get counts as 1 success for your body of argument.
Okay. So I'll just roll will.
Yeah,
Click. No modifiers, I assume.
that is correct.
I can't fork anything into this.
Nope.
Okay. Base obstacle 1.
Yeah. All right, so no successes. So your body of argument is your will flat, which is 4. So you can,
Yes.
when it says Shihaoji's body of argument, put a 4 at the end of that. Chris, what skill are you? Do you think you were using when you were arguing with Shihao before we went into the Duel of Wits?
It's going to come down to either persuasion or law-wise.
Yeah, law-wise doesn't apply here, so persuasion, I guess, is the proper one.
Persuasion is the only one then.
Okay, so make a persuasion check if you have it. If you don't have it, make a will check.
Just roll it.
Yep.
No modifiers,
No
no
modifiers.
Arthur. Obstacle.
1.
Up 1. I mean, up is technically completely irrelevant because we just look at the successes. Okay, cool. You got 2 successes. What is your will?
My will is 4.
All right. So where it says Nicholas' body of argument, write 6.
Okay.
I am disadvantaged.
You are. Nicholas' onset position in this argument is better than yours.
To be honest, I don't mind because I kind of like the idea of him being, well, both I like the idea of him being a cunt about it, but I also think it would be healthy for him to learn how to use other skills than just sorcery.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, no matter what happens here, everyone wins, right?
Exactly.
So, okay. So now we have your body of argument. let's see. None of you have any traits that add any bonuses to your body of argument, so that doesn't matter. All right, so now we move into exchanges. This works just as fight did. We have one exchange, and an exchange is comprised of 3 volleys. But where in the fight you had extra actions in a volley depending on your reflexes, you just have 1 action per volley now. So you play 1 card in the first volley, 1 card in the second, and 1 card in the third. That's the end of the exchange. If none of you are reduced to 0, we make a new exchange.
And may we look at the options then?
Yes, absolutely. The cards are out. Click on the choose option, and you can see the list of options readily available. And you just pick whatever your character would do. Right? When you do this, like imagine what your character would say, how he would make his point known, and
Cool.
just play those cards.
They're so small, I can't see what they say outside of.
You click them, like just click it. Don't drag it, but just
Ah,
click it.
thank
It'll
you.
blow it up.
I assume that they tell you what they do.
Yeah, if you have any questions about what exactly does this do and what doesn't it do, or what is the effect of this, and you can't understand it from the text on the card, just ask. I'll happily inform you.
Avoid. I have an idea what it does, but I'd like to know.
Avoid is that you avoid the topic. So you kind of like what you must do when you speak the part is you must veer off topic, even to the point of sounding desperate or ridiculous. It's like, by the way, it's totally nice weather, wouldn't you agree? Right, like something to that effect, or at least the same level of avoidance on display.
Okay, so how do we drag and deal in this case? What do we do?
Like normal, I assume.
Sorry, come in, Chris.
I've got 3 cards I'm happy to use.
Yeah. So what you do when you have like a card you want to use is you click and you drag it out, and it'll come up face down, and you just
Will it?
Yeah.
I have a few more questions.
Go
So,
on. You may ask your
Point.
questions.
point, as I understand it, is a direct attack to the opponent's body of argument.
That's correct. It is you
Avoid
making the point
is-
why you are correct.
And avoid is like changing the subject. Obfuscate is when you what?
Obfuscation.
Actually, could you just go through them all? That would probably be easier.
All right. So
Although you can probably just do to dismiss because the rest, I assume, are not necessarily.
sure. I'll make a brief mention of them all. So what the point is? So when you point, you like it's a main attack. You say, why are you correct, right? Why should you be convinced of what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that's what you do when you point. When you dismiss, dismiss is the coup de grace. It is the big sweeping cataclysmic fuck off statement. It is where you loudly declare that your opponent he doesn't know what he's talking about, and any further argument is a fool's errand because you are right and you need to sit down and shut up, son. Right? Or in the same venue, it is the big move. If you script a dismiss and you don't win, you hesitate. So it's like, oh wait, you're not backing down after that. I'm confused. Next up is avoid. Avoid we've talked about, right? It's avoiding the topic even to the point of seeming desperate or ridiculous.
And what does it do mechanically?
Avoid, you roll when you avoid, and you subtract the amount of successes from the opponent's damage to your argument.
Okay.
Now, as in fight, there are if you avoid and someone faints, then they
it says vulnerable, avoid, dismiss, feint, and rebuttal.
Yeah, that's probably right. So the idea is that some actions can get around other actions.
Yes, that makes sense.
Feint is you trying to you try and draw your opponent into a verbal trap, right? You're setting up a straw man for them or something. Like you want to get a grasp on their argument and turn it against them. And you use it to bypass rebuttal and to attack feint. You use it against other feints, against incite, and against obfuscate.
Alright.
The insight is it says like, with acid tongue and biting wit, a character may attempt to distract or dismay an opponent. The speaking player must pronounce an outright insult to his opponent.
We'll save that for later, I think.
Obfuscate is a verbal block. The player attempting to do an obfuscate must present some non sequitur or bizarre unrelated point in an attempt to confuse or distract his opponent. Obfuscate is spoken while your opponent is speaking. So if you script obfuscate and Chris scripts point, then we know that you make the obfuscation as he's speaking. So as Chris is making his point, to play yours out, you just like start talking over him and making some like bizarre non sequitur.
So I do that, or we know that, in character, that's what happened.
That is what ideally that's what we want to see from you, like what we want done when we see you speak your part. Although we can be a bit lax about it, right? Because we're getting to know the game and the system and so on. But ideally, if you can do it, then try and do it. Like if you see Chris making a point and you have obfuscate, just start talking over him.
Oh.
Rebuttal is when the speaking the part for rebuttal is the player lets his opponent make his attack and then he refutes the argument made with a fresh point himself. So it is, I see your point, but I raise you you're wrong.
Alright, so I made what?
So what's your question?
I did not know how to word that question. Could you repeat that? That might help.
So a rebuttal is, let's say Chris scripts point and you script rebuttal.
Yes.
Then Chris will say, magic is dangerous and using it too much will attract unwanted attention, which will be harmful to us. Then your rebuttal will be, that may be so, but magic is also useful, and if used correctly, it could be used to mask us rather than make us more easily observable. Right? So you refute his point by making a counterpoint.
Yes. And how does that work mechanically?
That is like a block and then an attack. So you divide your dice between attack and defense. So the dice you set off for defense, you subtract from the enemy's attack, and the dice you set off for attack, you use against, then you use those to inflict damage to him.
Alright. I think that's all of them.
Yeah.
So
So, I see, Chris, you've dragged a card out there in the middle of everything.
Have I?
Yeah, there's a card out here at least. This one.
No, that's not.
I don't know. I'll remove that one. And the two of you may pull your cards down and place them. I'm gonna do it first, just to give an example, right? So place them like so.
What happens if you make a point and your opponent has a point?
Then both of you are like, one guy makes a point, the other guy makes a point, you both take damage.
Okay.
And let's say we talk at each other and wounds open up on our bodies.
Yeah, this is not the 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. None of you have vicious mockery, so none of you can inflict actual hit point damage with insults. But you're hurting each other's argument.
Right, I'm going to place my cards on the lower part of that open space, like with in the list here. So it's Jihauji goes on top and Nicholas on the bottom. So I'm going to continue that tradition. So,
All right.
So if I drag my first card here,
Yeah, sure.
that
Just-
gives you an idea of where I'm going to go.
Sure. You put 3 down, 1 for each volley, and Rasmus will do the same. And then we'll reveal the volleys, and you will speak your parts.
Will we? Will we truly?
Yes.
Let's see how this works.
With great difficulty.
Clearly. And this one. Yes, that is definitely going to be it.
Cool.
Right.
Now, good. Then what I'll do is I'm going to take these 6 cards. I'm just going to drag here, so we get them up to the size. There we go. Okay, so let's see. We've established that your characters are like discussing this subject. Reveal the first volley. So right-click on your card and click on flip card.
Ah!
Wonderful.
Point.
So
I knew
both
it.
of you make a point now. Instead of talking over each other, when we do this, it would be if one of you has a trait that would allow you to go first. It wouldn't like it's not that you can then attack and you don't take any damage, but it's just who speaks first. And in this case, because none of you have a trait about that, it would be the oldest character speaks first.
The oldest?
Yeah.
Oh, that is an interesting thing to tie that to.
Yeah, it's just like it's a tiebreaker for the players rather than the characters, but it works.
Alright, well, 28.
Oh god, I'm exactly the same.
Wonderful. Okay, just throw me a. I don't know. Let's see if the game has anything to say about this. If not, we just throw a die.
Why couldn't you be young and foolish, Rasmus?
If two
'Cause
players are
I'm not.
simultaneously throwing points or incitements, let the traits decide who speak first, or allow the elder character to proceed. The order doesn't really matter. The results are tallied, and both characters have spoken. Okay, so I don't know. Let's say that Nikki speaks first because you're in his house.
Sure.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Right, so you make your point.
Yaudi has been reactionary for the most of this conversation anyways, so...
That's true.
Mm-hmm. So yes.
So let's
starts off
like
with
give
the-
us a 2-sentence or something to that effect. Like not a speech, but like make a point succinctly.
Magic is all well and good, but not if the coppers come in to try and hang you for it. You've got to keep on the low down, otherwise you will not win this fight.
Cool.
Okay.
Now, and what you are gonna do is you are going to like you made your point. Let's see what you can use to make a point. You can use cause persuasion, interrogation, oratory persuasion, rhetoric, ostentatious debate. That sounded like persuasion to me.
Yes.
So, do you agree that was a persuasion attempt?
It wasn't a persuasion attempt, yes.
Okay, so throw your dice pool for persuasion.
Okay. No modifiers?
No modifier.
And the difficulty... Also, the obstacle is... Base, 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you came out with 2.
Yep.
All right. So
I was like, when is it coming? Oh, it's the same.
Same, exactly the same.
So Shihao takes 2 damage to his body of argument. Rasmus, you write a 2 next to the 4, right? Like make a new body of argument number and put it somewhere next to it, so we can see how much it started out being and how much it is now.
Alright, I'll do that. I'll do exactly that.
And then you make your point, and then we do the same.
So my point is not a rebuttal, right?
No, your point is a point of your own.
Alright. My point is I have sufficient magical power to power my way through most obstacles. You should rely on me a bit more to do what I'm good at.
Cool. Yeah, that sounded like persuasion to me.
Sure. So I roll will.
Give me a persuasion check.
So that's a will.
Yeah, that's a will. Every 2 successes you get count as 1.
So no modifiers, no Arthur, base obstacle 1.
I mean, you could use, if you get 6s, you could spend fate, and you could spend a persona now if you wanted to.
I don't have a persona,
Okay.
but I
Then roll
could
it.
definitely spend fate. But fate I can do afterwards, right?
Yeah.
I would like to spend a fate point.
Exactly the same. I think
Right,
the thing
so,
might be
so
broken.
you have 1 success there. If you spend fate and you get another 6, you can and you get another success after that 6, you can get 2 damage. So go on, spend your fate.
So I'll just roll 1d6.
Yeah, and remember to add a fate point to your will.
Yes. That's a 2.
Okay, so there was you spent the fate, but alas, no big money. So Chris, your body of argument takes 1 damage.
Okay, so 6 minus 1.
Cool. I mean, you could also write 5, I guess, and then Rasmus could write 2. Doesn't matter. It's just as long as we know what's actually going on.
Yes.
I think the
okay.
minus makes more sense. The second your minuses overcomes your pluses, then maybe you lost.
Yep. AJ, remember that you should. You're still to feel free to interject a comment whenever one of these two guys speak, and just be like, yeah, Minnow is totally helping because he's saying this. So reveal second volley. Nice. Let's see what happens when. So Shihao obfuscates and you rebut. So you're using obfuscate versus rebuttal. That's a versus test, and he is using rebuttal versus obfuscate. That's still a versus test. Okay. So let's see what goes when. Okay. So what skills are used for? We'll look at the rebuttal first. Chris?
Extortion, interrogation, oratory, persuasion, poisonous platitudes, rhetorics, and stentorious debate, and suasion. So again, it's a persuasion check.
Yeah, if you want it to be, right? That depends on how you word it. So if you want it to be a persuasion check, you will want to word your argument here as if it was persuasion. As if you're trying to persuade him. So what you want to do now is you're rebutting. So you take your dice pool for the rebuttal. Actually, never mind. So I'm sorry. Let's do this right. So first you speak the part. You want to like make a rebuttal when he speaks, but nothing comes, right? He doesn't actually make an argument. He just like stands there cross-armed, like waiting for you, and then when you start speaking, he'll cut you off. So right. As you wait for an argument that's not coming, you then like get to make a point of your own.
Okay, so after a while, it's a case of you realise that it's not, and you start to you realise it just isn't good for business your way. If we'd worked your way, we'd have been doing it. We'd have done it before. We'd be doing it without you, but it doesn't work now, does it? Do you think about it?
So should I interrupt at some point?
Yeah, you should just interrupt and start talking over him.
Oh, wasn't there something else for interrupting?
Let's see about obfuscate.
Oh, I'm sorry, because then I would totally have interrupted earlier.
Yeah, it's fine. Yes. I mean, we can just say you did that. We'll play and learn, right? So yeah, obfuscate is a verbal block. You must present a non sequitur, bizarre, or unrelated point in an attempt to confuse and distract your opponent. Obfuscate is spoken while the opponent is speaking.
All right. So Nikki says that if your way worked, we would have done it before.
Yeah.
In the Stormlands, it is said that the storm destroys everything that will not change, and you and I both know a storm is coming.
Cool. Dig it. So yeah. So
I guess that would be religious diatribe.
Yeah, it would be. You could argue that is a religious diatribe. And you, Chris, you were again. It seems to me like you were making a persuasion attempt.
Yes, seeing as the rebuttal never actually came, it was just another point. So yeah, persuasion.
So what you want to do is you need to have at least one die in your. You lose one die for like trying to preempt a point that wasn't coming.
Okay.
So you have you can spread the dice as far as you want to, but I mean, there's no point in you putting any more than one die in defense and then keeping 3 for attack.
Okay, so how does that work?
Essentially, you just roll your persuasion, but put a modifier of -1 in.
Okay, give me a second.
Also, and we should have done this before we started, but we'll deal with that later. So, never mind what I'm saying now. Just keep going, and I'll make sure to make adjustments as we play.
For goodness sake, it's all the same.
Wonderful.
2 6s and a 1.
Okay, so we have 2 6s here. Do you want to spend fate to? I mean, there's really no need to, I guess, because you're.
Oh, do it! Wipe him out completely.
Yeah, you've already reduced his body of argument to 0, but if you were to spend fate now, you could put a fate toward your persuasion.
What does Rasmus want to say before I get to that?
It's just I really wanted to at least finish this volley, but That's
I mean,
very nice.
I'll have us have a look at it then, but essentially, like, this is the point where it's over.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so let's.
So do you want to use fate, Chris, to get a fate towards your persuasion?
Uh,
Actually,
Yeah.
let's this is important, right? Because this is the effect of obfuscate. Let's talk about the effects of obfuscate. So
Yeah.
obfuscate is tested versus anything, even itself. If the obfuscator wins, the victim of this tactic loses his current action. If the obfuscator exceeds his obstacle, his opponent also suffers a +1 op to his next action. So what's going on here is you, Rasmus, will want to make a will check right about now. If you can get...
succeed.
Go on, Chris?
Yes, if you succeed, you'll cancel out my action completely.
Yeah, if you... actually, before you make that will check, I'll ask Chris. Chris, do you want to use fate to roll for more successes? If Rasmus gets 4 successes on his will check, he will cancel your persuasion.
How many fate points would I need to spend to get the number of successes required?
If you spend 1 fate point now, you can re-roll the 2 6s. If they yield more successes, you will increase the number of successes Rasmus needs to get to stop your argument.
Okay, I will spend a fate point then.
Okay. So first off, mark fate in your persuasion. Go into your persuasion skill and mark a fate in that.
That's the second fate point I've put into persuasion.
Very nice. And now roll 2d6.
Okay.
All right, so
Fail.
no extra successes.
Big
try.
fail.
You get the fate towards your persuasion. So.
I hope so.
And now, Rasmus, you used a religious diatribe, but you don't have it, so you're using your root.
Look at that!
It's very
I would like
nice.
to use fate.
Okay, so roll 1d6. And mark a fate towards your will.
No.
Alas.
So I have 2 fate and 1 persona and will right now.
Very nice. So you
if
make
I
you make a
get-
valiant try here. But you despite you trying to cut him off with your diatribe about how the storm crushes all and how things are back home and how we should adhere to the wise words of the first folk, Nicholas just powers through with his point, not letting himself be dissuaded by your counter argument or your obfuscation attempt, and in doing so reduces your body of argument to nothing, which means that you hesitate now. There's a moment where you earn a steel test for losing, essentially. So give me a steel test.
Okay, let's try that. And that's just flat as well, right?
Yeah,
Oh, very good.
very nice. What is your hesitation?
6.
6. Okay, so
Can I use fate on this too?
no steel is open-ended,
Oh, okay.
so it has already re-rolled your 6s.
Yeah, I see. I got it.
Okay, so you try to overpower him, right? Tell me what's happening, unless you want me to tell you what's happening.
Who are you talking to now?
You're the one losing this argument. What does that look like? And how does Shihaoji react to being verbally trounced in this manner? Unless you want me to kind of embellish on the situation.
I think he...
Do you stand and drool? Do you beg for mercy? Do you run screaming?
Oh,
or
right,
do
I
you
have to choose one of those shitty things. That's
Yeah,
true.
you're
Yes.
one of those 4, but you, of course, depending on, there's a situational context to be aware of, right? So swooning in this
What?
case doesn't mean you're attracted to him. It just might be that you're getting so flustered you lose consciousness. Standing and drooling doesn't literally mean drooling, but it could be you just standing there, mouth open, being like, well,
What the hell just happened?
yeah.
I think... Okay, can I do it like this? If I choose stand and drool,
Yeah.
can I choose to just do nothing and he looks like he's really trying his damnedest to figure out what to say.
Yeah, it could definitely be that, right? You try and obfuscate him. You try and throw him off, and it doesn't work. Instead, he drives home his point, and that has an effect on you, right? Your argument is invalidated in essence. Your body of argument is reduced to 0, and in surprise and in shock of that happening and of your obfuscate not working, there is a long moment where you just find yourself unable to speak, right? You're at a loss for words. And that may be visible for people looking at you, but you don't have to be stammering or anything. It's just like a very obvious moment of you not having the words. Like cat got your tongue.
I think maybe he'll open his mouth, shut it again, and his brow will furrow. Like,
Very cool. Very cool.
Now, can we reveal the last card so I can tell you what I wanted to do?
Absolutely. Let's have a look at the last cards, just for fun.
So you chose Obfuscate because I chose Faint.
Very nice.
So what I wanted to do was to link it so that Shihaoji says, in the Stormlands, this and that and that. And then I was hoping that Nikki would say something along the lines of, well, we're not in the Stormlands, and I've lived here all my life, or something like that. Yep. And I would catch him in that and say, yes, exactly, you've lived here all your life. You have only the experience here. You need to see the bigger picture.
I have to commend you on that kind of chaining, like daisy chaining your argument like that, because thinking like that and thinking not only in strategically in how can I defeat Chris with my wordplay, but also thinking how would my character phrase his argument? How would he want to win the debate in this manner is actually it's really playing into what the game wants you to do. So 2 thumbs up for that.
Woo! I know intelligence is not a stat. I still imagine Xiaoji having quite a bit of it. It's mostly wisdom he's lacking.
All right. So what happens here is first you make a point and Nicholas essentially cuts your argument in half, and then he finally puts you to the wall and finishes the argument. It's pretty quick, right? It's a brief debate. It's only about as long as we actually experienced it, like the points you made in turn, before you are caught off guard and not really able to continue your argument. So let's talk about compromise, because you both lost damage. You both took damage to your body of argument. Chris, you would have gotten your term completely as expressed if there had not been any damage to your argument, but you took 1 point of damage to it. So what is going to happen is that you have to make a minor compromise.
I have a suggestion as to what Shihaoji would what's the English word? Suggest?
I will hear that, but before I hear that, I am going to read aloud what a minor compromise is defined as that might affect what you decide to come up with. So, if your body of argument is reduced by a few points, you owe your interlocutor a minor compromise. You must grant him a small concession regarding your goal, or agree to an additional minor condition that he puts forth. So either you cede a bit of your argument, Chris, or you accept an additional clause put forth by Shihao. A minor.
And that would be his suggestion, adding an additional clause.
All right, well, let's take this on a meta level before we bring it down to the player level. So, Rasmus, what do you suggest for a compromise?
Do you mind if I take it on a character level?
I mean, I would be okay with it, but I mean, it's better if we just talk it out, because otherwise, if Chris doesn't accept
I'll do it both. I'll do both. On a player level, this is actually to try and fulfill my belief.
Yeah, go on.
So what I want Shihaoji to suggest is that, okay, you've made your point. I will not use magic as my first resort. However, since I can't then practice my magic as much as I would like, perhaps we could make a deal where you cut a bit of my pay and instead use that to help me search for magical resources so that I can study.
Nice.
Instead of trying practical magic.
Right, so your suggestion for the minor compromise is, sure, I will do as you say, but magic is still my craft, so would you please help me in searching it out in this city at least?
Yes.
That's cool. I like that for a compromise. Chris, do you feel like Nicola? Like, do you feel like that is a fair minor compromise?
I do completely. I encourage that compromise.
Okay, very cool. Okay, so we have a compromise in place. Now you may speak, like, take that conversation in character.
Very well. You make a good point.
I hope so.
However, if I can't practice my magic in the practical sense, I have a suggestion. Would it then be possible, perhaps even if you have to dock a bit of my pay, for you to help me find magical resources so that I may at least study?
That seems perfectly reasonable.
Of course, I do expect you to actually uphold that part and not just dock my pay.
I'm not that. I may be a twisted, miserly fucker, but I'm not that bad, I assure you.
And you, of course, did see what I can do if I don't like people.
Of course. Besides, like I said, I'm not saying you can't do it ever. I'm just saying, not as the opening volley, as it were.
Yogi nods and looks thoughtful.
Very
I'm glad
cool.
we could reach a compromise on this at the very least.
I do hope that if I judge that a situation really does need magic as a first volley, not that I think that will be the case often, that I can still do it, say, to save your life.
Well, I will do my best to keep a vaguely open mind about it.
And I'll do my best to think of much more mundane options.
Wonderful. I have a question because this is perfect. Good job.
Go us!
While this conversation, like while the duel of wits, there is a verbal throwdown here. Minnow is, of course, witnessing all this, as is like two other people in the room. Strictly speaking, like there are other people here on guard as usual, not really bothering to interject anything, just making themselves unnoticed. Like Minnow, how does Minnow feel about this thing that's going on right now? Right, your brother is engaging in an argument with your employer, and you've heard the arguments being put forth, and eventually, like, you saw the solution to the conflict. What does Minnow feel?
Oh, you're talking to me now.
Yes.
Okay. I will they'll probably talk to me when I'm needed. Well, it looks like that Minnow have been, not readying himself, but he's been following the argument as if to, come with a point here or there if it was needed. For which side, none of you will ever know now.
Oh well.
And he just seems okay with it. Like, okay, well, they resolved it on their own.
Really cool. Now, what like on it, if I may ask, like, what is Minnow's actual, like, not what he's showing on his face, but how does he feel about the way the conversation turned out?
Well, then I don't actually have to side with Nikki to beat my brother down to ground level.
Very cool. So like in Minnow's mind, he counts this as like, this is a good step on the road to achieving your second belief. Is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
All right.
His initial thought were, I'm gonna have to help Nikki with this because I don't want to end up on some spear somewhere.
Yeah.
But he's also pretty aware that whenever he tries to get, now you have to listen, he'll do the same thing as he does with his teacher and just go la 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 la.
Fingers in ears, head back, open mouth, lying.
He is too used to his brother trying to lecture him. As seen before, well, I don't need my spear, I have my hocus pocus. Filiokus. Why do I need my spear for? Right.
Cool.
So he is pretty aware that his brother would do the same thing he does to his teacher. It's like a child, really. If you're a stranger saying, go to bed now, they will go to bed right away because they do not know where they have you. If mommy goes to say, go to bed now, they'll know exactly where the line is and they'll try to keep pushing it.
Very cool. Okay. Excellent. Thank you
If
for that
need-
little look into Minnow.
He would have helped if needed,
Okay.
but it weren't needed at all.
So post debate, like we've established, you had your discussion. We know how it turned out. You will want to like I will make a note in my GM notebook about the outcome of this, but the two of you, Shihao, Nikki, will both want to somewhere like make a note of the fallout of this, so you can keep it fresh in your mind and be aware of if and when you break the precepts that you agreed on.
I will put it on notes wherever they are.
Cool. Of course, like make a note of the compromise you agreed on and so on. It's fine. Just make sure you know how this went down. And then my question is, do you want to do something else? Like, do you want to play out more parts of this scene? Or should we jump directly to like, to later when you try and steal the cloth? Or do you want to like, what do you want to do?
Well,
I think the only thing Minnow will add to this conversation when his brother is standing there sulking like a little bitch would be, well, now you kinda have to use the spear, won't ya?
Shihao will turn and look and says, I usually find that my mind is sharper. Just not today.
Nice.
Minnow's only reaction.
Very nice. I dig it. So Chris, you had you raised your voice when I asked what you were up to.
I was going to say that I desperately need to use the little boy's room, but
We can grab a brief break. I think that's
that'd be
fair.
very nice. Thank
Go
you.
poop with the Striders. They'll love the company.
Yeah, let's take a break now, and we'll be back for the last bit of this session of Burning Wheel. So, you guys, wonderful viewing audience, stick around for more Burning Wheel.